why even start Geelong Podcasters? And why even put so much effort into it? Well, you're going to find out today. Welcome to Geelong Podcasters, your weekly podcast for tips and tricks to grow your audience. We are a group of passionate podcasters located in Geelong and the Bellarine in Victoria, Australia. If you're down our way at the end of the month, why not come to one of our free monthly meetup events? And also, find the booking links and more in the show notes. Yes, welcome to the first episode of the Geelong Podcasters, and you're listening to Zoë Wood, the video confidence coach. I wanted to start off this podcast series and this podcast in general with an episode of why I started the Geelong Podcasters. Now, what you may be listening to now is not my first crack at this. Starting a group of local podcasters in my hometown of Geelong and the Bellarine. So for those who are unaware, Geelong is the city and surrounding suburbs, while the Bellarine is along the coast and towards the surf coast. So essentially, I like to include Geelong and the Bellarine just to cover everything. Of course, we are on Wadawurrung land, and that's all collective within that. But the reason I started Geelong Podcasters, I initially started, I think, back in 2018, 2019. Because I was doing podcasts for myself, but also for clients, and I was just feeling very lonely. Podcasting is it can be a very lonely and very solitary activity, despite the fact that you are talking, and you are talking to an audience that can listen to you. So when generating a group, and I did successfully run at least, I want to say 3 to 4 meetups from the end of 2018, from the start of 20, my apologies, my timelines are a bit weird. From the end of 2019 to the start of 2020. And as you can probably imagine, something happened around the start of 2020 that meant that I wasn't doing it anymore. But also by that point, I had burnt out. I had literally lost all the steam that I had for this project. And I was honestly just feeling put out. That when I started the Geelong Podcasters project, I wanted to be able to create a group, not just a Facebook group and not just a LinkedIn group, but just a place where people could meet regularly, that I can spend reasonably 1 or a couple of hours a month being able to meet people in person and have a relaxing atmosphere to discuss podcasts with people. And yes, there was the opportunity that I've talked with people about and maybe getting clients from it, but that's not really a priority for me. And what I want to do is to provide a space where I can communicate with other local podcasters to discuss ideas that we have, plans, maybe what's going on in the local scene, or maybe the national scene. Surveys. Essentially, I am a nerd when it comes to podcasting, and I want to talk to other nerds who are interested in podcasting. So I can't do that if there's no one else to talk to. So I wanted to take this opportunity to show my intentions. And if you're listening to this in the future, which of course you probably are, Zoe, because you are putting out a podcast, I really do honestly want to thank everyone who's provided their support to me. Now, of course, I'm doing this as a solo endeavor. I don't have any business partners or anyone helping me with this group. And it's starting off small with an event once a month, an in-person event once a month, and social media posts once a week, and this podcast once a week, which is going to be about 5 minutes long, max 6 minutes. And in all honesty, I want to make this easy enough for me to do so I don't burn out, and also provide that help and that knowledge to people who want to learn more about podcasting, who want to interact with local podcasters, who they can maybe receive mentorship, or maybe just have a chat about podcasting with other podcasters for people who care. So I want to take this opportunity to thank you for listening. And hopefully, if you are a podcaster yourself, I would love to see you in the Facebook group and the LinkedIn communities, whichever is your fancy. That's why I have both, just in case you have any particular preference. And from there, to ask your questions, to get feedback, to maybe even get some guests or collaborate with other podcasters. That's something that I definitely want to do and definitely want to show, because it is a hobby. And I want to stress hobby, because there is a very large community that is not getting paid for this. I want to give you the opportunity to reach out and make connections. And if you're not based in Geelong or in the Bellarine or even in Victoria, then why not listen along and use our webpage on my website, vcc.training/Geelong-podcasts, where you can leave your questions in the form at the top of the page. So ask your questions. I look forward to hearing from you. And that'll be it for the first episode of the podcast. This podcast is sponsored by me, Zoe, the Video Confidence Coach, connecting the dots of your personal brand with the power of video. See more in the show notes. Speaking of show notes, see all the show notes, including links, upcoming events, and details for this episode and many more in the episode description, or just go to vcc.training/Geelong-podcasters. Make sure you tune in for next week.